Hey TNA fam, we're back here at the Impact Zone podcast again to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans. But today, of course, somewhat not breaking news, but somewhat breaking news ish, I guess. Well, the other day we were talking about how WWE laid off many wrestlers. Now, four more wrestlers have been added to the layoffs or releases or whatever. They're just not renewing their contracts or what have you. Or they're just a little bit like, TKO, WWE, whatever. You guys don't care about us. So, and you've shown that time and time again. So you know what? We're gonna walk or whatever else it is. I don't. Or creatively, we've been here for a while, and you haven't really done anything with us. So come on, and that it's been that way for years. And you kind of promised us a better version of WWE when Triple H took over, but it seems like more or less TKO has taken over. So, and we just don't want to deal with that. So, yeah, there's 4 releases thus far. There might be more. Who knows? We will wait to see. But the New Day, both Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, have decided to part ways from WWE. Also, JC, I'm going to say Tongaloa and JC Mileto, who I believe beforehand was, what was his name? He was, because he faced Moose at a crossover show a couple of years ago. And I was like, this dude's going to lose. Then he won, and then it turned into like nothing because, he was in New Japan. And I was like, well, maybe that's like the 50-50 booking of things or whatever. But still, both of those guys were big in New Japan. Like Kofi, I don't think he's like, maybe he was on the indies a little bit. I don't know. I know he was like mainly in the WWE system. He's been in the WWE system since like 2008, 2009, something like that. I don't know. I can't remember, but a long time. And Xavier Woods, he was in TNA a long time ago, and has been in the WWE system like for basically about the same amount of time. I think about 08, 09, something like that. They put Xavier and Kofi together. I think it was like 2011, 2012, something like that. I can't remember. But anyway, somebody's going to type it, in the comments and say it was this date on this time, you fool, or whatever. Yeah, sure, cool, bro. That's great. Thank you for that in the future. But I'm just going off my memory, which again, I haven't watched WWE in over like 16 something years or whatever it's been. So, or like I've caught up with the news and like I see clips and hear things and whatnot, but I don't watch it. But either way, whatever. Somebody expects me to know the exact time and the exact date and the exact second that these guys formed a tag team or a faction or whatever else that you want to call it. But whatever. So, like, I don't know. I would say, like I said before, like, if TNA can pick up, well, I don't know whether I actually said this, but if TNA can pick up these guys or try to pick up these guys, dude, you should try to do it. And I was saying this to somebody else, or I was saying it on somebody else's, about somebody else's show that they were doing a couple of weeks ago, and saying about some of the WWE releases and saying, hey, where do you think they're going, or what do you think about them being in TNA, or what have you, and all that sort of stuff, or who are you interested in, things like that. And I've seen a few clips of like YouTubers and wrestling podcasters saying, and it has only been about TNA picking up like WWE's talent and whatnot, not AEW. But if TNA picks up any of these talent, it's seen as less than, because it's seen as, WWE, you're trying to be WWE light, or you're just picking up WWE's rejects, basically. And it's crazy to me that how many ex-WWE guys are over in AEW versus in TNA. There's maybe a handful of guys from WWE that are in TNA, or maybe like you could count guys that have been to WWE, but like, and then it'd be a bit more. But like, realistically, you wouldn't consider Eric Young a WWE guy, would you? But whatever. But still, and most people forget his time in WWE because he was like, maybe unless you watched NXT, you probably never even knew that he was there. But still, yeah. Certainly, I can agree that there are some talent that I would consider as, those guys feel like rejects or more or whatever. But that's kind of the goal of, getting some of these wrestlers, is saying, hey, they rejected you. We'll give you a chance. We'll give you an opportunity. We'll give you the platform. But you've got to prove yourself. You've got to, make them eat those words, so. And as I was saying, it's really crazy that people only perspective like this that way by saying it that way and saying, oh, TNA is just going to pick up WWE's rejects. Meanwhile, if AEW picks them up, it's like, oh, this is a huge signing or whatever. No, it's still a WWE reject, despite it being on AEW. And AEW has got way more WWE rejects and way more people than they know what to do with. And TNA has a lot of space where a lot of people could fit. So, again, I feel like, you need more, you need some of these talent to come over, like, that, even if it's a one-off, or whatever. Getting Io Sky or whatever for one night for Slammiversary or for Bound for Glory. Same for like when they said, oh, we'll try to get Braun Strowman in for Bound for Glory or whatever else it was. That's a huge deal. Like no matter what anyone says, it was like that would have been a huge deal. But again, it's these podcasters and these other outlets trying to diminish or trying to negate TNA from signing people, and saying, oh, that's just WWE rejects. But meanwhile saying, oh, if they go to AEW, that's major signings, bro. That's major signings. And AEW will take care of them. Bro, they'll take care of them. Willie Mack is basically starving and homeless while he's working for AEW because they won't use him and don't know what to do with him. And there's so many guys and gals that are in the same boat that haven't been on TV. Danhausen, who's in WWE now and making a huge success of himself, was on their roster for over a year and did nothing because AEW didn't know what to do with him. And I was concerned about him in WWE because WWE has never gotten these, like, more creative, more unique, kind of spooky-wooky kind of characters or whatever else it is. Except for The Undertaker and maybe Kane, kind of. But still, he's doing well for himself because he can market himself and he can show himself off. And he's actually more of a kind of Rock kind of character or a Steve Austin kind of character that is just like, I don't know, this little goblin kind of guy as well, like, or whatever, that's a little bit, I don't know, mischievous or whatever, whatnot, that sort of thing. But yeah, like, I think he's doing great, and I think that they're using him somewhat well because, again, they can see how marketable he is, which is good. I think Royce Keys, I think he's been doing dark matches and things like that or whatnot, and there was some talk of him being in NXT for a little while or whatever. I don't know, dude. Like, it doesn't feel like they know what to do with him, and perhaps he's not as marketable as what they thought. So I don't think that they have as much interest in him now, and maybe he'll be, like, gone at some point. But, like, then will he go back to AEW? And I don't think so. He'll be like, dude, I was just there for however goddamn long, and they did shit all with me. And it's not just being, oh, I gotta be the world champion or whatever, but at least being like pushed into that position and at least being a contender and at least like being given stuff to work with on a weekly, monthly basis or whatever else it is. And yes, that happens in TNA as well, where some people don't get the time that they need or whatever. But still, like somebody like him could really be a game changer, like potentially in that main event scene in TNA. And I don't want to just talk about hypotheticals, but whatever. I think the New Day, I don't know what they would be called outside of WWE, but I assume like that logo or that branding won't continue. I am assuming like Big E, I don't know what's going to happen with Big E, but I assume he's still like on the WWE alumni, or he's still a producer or whatever else it is, or whatever ambassador or whatever he's doing. But I could see him leaving too, dude, because like those are two of his best friends, and he's had a long history with them. And I don't know if he's ever going to return, but, like, yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Because you so much want him to see him do stuff and be happy and whatnot, but, like, is it worth the risk? I don't know. But just, like, even just doing something, even just being their manager or whatever else it is or something, that'd be great. I think even, whatever. You could still do something. I don't know. Or managing against them. I don't know. I don't know what you're going to do exactly. But again, I feel as a tag team, no matter what they're going to be called, like, they would be good for TNA. Like, obviously, they'd be good in AEW in some ways, but, like, again, they've got... I don't even know their tag team scene very well, but, like, it does feel like a very, like, older division for the most part, like, because FTR are very much old hat at this point, and the Young Bucks are very much old hat at this point as well. And it doesn't feel like a lot of the other teams have really, like there are other teams, obviously, but it doesn't really feel like they're getting that spotlight that they ever needed and that they would ever get to that level of being, like, on the same page as FTR or getting on the same page as the Young Bucks or whatever else it is. It just feels like maybe that's me not watching it or not paying enough attention or whatever, but from a very casual viewpoint, that is people's perspective. If you haven't, reached that level of, like, yeah, we're getting out there, and certainly there's Private Party and a couple of other tag teams that people have kind of heard of or whatever. But again, it's like, yeah, if they went there, they're just like Edge and Christian, same thing. It's just another old hat tag team that's like, oh, okay, but we don't have any really young tag teams that are gonna, overtake them and do that sort of thing. Meanwhile, even though TNA doesn't have that many big young tag teams or whatever, like, I mean, like, then at least you have that chance of saying, okay, well, let's try to put some of those guys over. We've got to do more for those guys, Same for the women. Like, it's crazy how little, like, time you give the women's tag teams, like, in that division. But maybe, like I said, maybe it's too much to keep track of having all those things going on. But it's like, you need to give some of these things the time of the day. So, I mean, like I said, you don't know if somebody else is going to be released today, tomorrow, in 5 minutes, whatever. You don't know. Or if somebody's just going to say, I'm sick of your BS, whatever else it is. But this is like what, again, I say about, like, some of this. It's a good space to be in now because talent have, more options than what they have had in the past, like, 20 odd years. Before, it was just, well, I guess I go to WWE, like, more major promotions. I guess I go to WWE or go to TNA and that's about it. Or maybe I go to New Japan and that's about it. Or maybe I can, wander around the indies and whatnot. Or hopefully, AAA is or Lucha Underground or CMML is worth going to, maybe. Like, I don't know. But again, like, there's a lot of that where it's like, oh yes, there are these like more other options. Now there's AEW, and not like, AEW is perfect or whatever else or anything like that. Not like TNA is perfect or anything like that. But again, if you're like, dude, yeah, we could go to AEW. Yeah, we could have a great match with the Young Bucks. That would be a dream match. A lot of people want to see that. Maybe we could have a match with FTR again or whatever, but then the well starts running dry, like, and it would be that way somewhat in TNA as well, because, like, you could say, oh, they could have a match with the Hardys and maybe the Righteous. I don't know. But then the well starts running dry of, like, major tag teams. But then you're starting to say, well, hey, now it's time to build those younger tag teams. Like, again, we need every division needs to be taken care of. If you're going to have that division, you need to take care of it. You need to put time and energy and effort and, yeah, TV time into it, not just plans and ideas and whatnot. You need to say, okay, what's the story that we're trying to tell, and how can we tell it, and when can we tell it, and whatever else, So, like I said that before with, like, Xia turning heel, it's like, that's a great heel turn or whatever, and it seems like her character's really good. But then you turn around and say, well, who besides Lay, who's she going to work with? How many other baby faces are there on the roster that aren't tag team wrestlers, effectively? And it's like, well, yeah, there aren't that many tag team wrestlers, but how many, like, non-babyface, non-tag team wrestlers are there? Or babyface, non-tag team wrestlers are there? Not very many. Like, again, like, there's a lot of heels in TNA right now, and they really need more baby faces. They really need more female baby faces. And I don't think Lee really is a great babyface, but that's me, and whatnot. I think a lot of people are actually into her, but, like, for me, like, not so much, as far as that is concerned. I think she's a great wrestler, or fairly good wrestler, or whatever, but I don't think she's that great. I mean, like, I don't think she could be a great heel either, honestly, but yeah, I think, like, she's not a great babyface, honestly. That's just me. She's a medium, like, B+ player to me. Like, that's where I'm at. But whatever. That is me. That is my perspective on her what level I think she's at. She's not world champion level babyface, I don't think. I think she's mid-card or tag team level babyface. That's the level of babyface that I see her at, and whatnot. But again, like I said before, I said, I don't know about, like, Lay winning the title again, because I feel like if Lay's going to win the title again, it feels like, well, she's just going to drop it to Xia, or whatever. And I don't know about that. I said before, maybe you should have, like, a triple threat between them. I don't know, but again, it starts becoming like, oh man, Lay's getting all these opportunities, all these rematches, all these things. And I said that before. I felt like, oh, why is she getting this rematch when she had a rematch before and whatnot? It's like, wow, that's kind of, what's that all about? Like, she's getting all these things, but it's like, oh, why? She didn't do anything. She hasn't really earned it. And other people have gotten screwed out of things and whatnot, but still. It's like most of these releases are dudes. So, and I would say, like, Tongaloa, he's more of a tag team guy. I would say, like, like, both of those guys are also, like, JC Mileto are kind of more of a tag team guy, at least for now. Not to say that you can't build them up. And again, like, I don't know, dude. I just always think, like, the comparison to me is, like, if I was a wrestler, again, well, I have been, but if I was a wrestler still, and I had this opportunity to say, okay, I'm not in WWE anymore, and maybe I've got 30 days or 60 days or whatever else to cool off or whatever else it is. Okay, cool. What am I going to do after those 30 days, 60 days, or whatever else it is? Why am I going to go to AEW? Yeah, sure, I can get paid a heck of a lot, or maybe get paid a heck of a lot, and maybe I have a fairly light schedule because I'll probably debut, then they'll probably forget about me, and that'll be pretty much it. They'll pretty much just like put me on their B or C or D or F show or whatever else it is, and that's all I'll do for a while or whatever. So, it's a pretty cushy gig, I guess, but is that really what I want? I don't know. Yes, maybe if I go to TNA, maybe I'm not getting paid as much, but I'll probably be used more, so that's where I'm at. I'm like, yeah, maybe it's a little less pay. It's probably about the same amount of dates a year. But I'll probably be used a little bit more. I'll probably be like higher on the card or higher in positioning on these sorts of things, and in the ranks of the of wherever I'm at, whether it's singles or tag teams or whatever. I just think, like, again, maybe you could go to New Japan, maybe you could go here, go there, whatever. But if you're thinking, you can do the Matt Cardona thing, like you could try to make a lot of money on the indies, like you can do that now, but again, do you want to go to one of the major promotions? I don't know, that's up to you, but again, if I'm looking at the major promotions and WWE now isn't really an option, yeah, I could go to AEW, maybe let's go there for a short period of time. Or even TNA, let's go there for a short period of time. Let's experience it ourselves, not just hearsay, or do what Matt Cardona did. Just say, we're free agents, maybe we'll come in, maybe we'll talk to you, maybe we'll have a match, maybe whatever. But you've got to meet us where we're at. We're not gonna, maybe you can do kind of the Nick Nemeth thing or whatever. You could kind of just be like, yeah, we'll be here, and if you want us and you keep wanting us and you keep saying, hey, let's work together, let's do stuff. It's like, oh, okay, we want you for this. Okay, we're interested. The more you say, hey, we want you for this, we want you for that. Okay, we're interested. We're down for that. We'll have a match. We'll do this promo. We'll have this feud. We'll do that. Whatever. That's great. But if you're just like, hey, we'll debut you, and then we'll get you on your contract, and then we'll lock you down, and then you'll never be seen for 6 months or a year or whatever else it is, and you'll enjoy nice catering. Maybe that's what you want. I don't know. But again, to me, I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want to be, again, you've already been doing that for a long period of time, and I'm sure some of that has to creep into your reasoning of saying, why did we leave, or whatever else it is. Hey, we haven't been really used for a long, long time. We've just been enjoying some nice catering, and that's some really nice catering, and we've been getting some nice money. But hey, we want more than that. And especially at the tail end of your career, which is both of those, both the New Day guys, basically. And I think Tangaloa and Mileto are in the middle of their careers. Actually, Mileto is more in the middle of his career. Tongaloa is probably getting closer to the end of his career, I guess, or the middle end of his career, I guess. So, but whatever. But again, if you're maybe if you're older and you're saying, dude, well, we do just want to have one more year, one more big year, or whatever else it is, and go out on a high, and whatever else it is, and then we're gonna become more backstage agents, or we're gonna become more whatever else it is, mentors, or we're gonna start our own wrestling school, or we're gonna start our own things, or just focus it on our families, or whatever. Again, that's up to you. Absolutely. But for me, again, if it was my decision, I'd say I'm going to TNA. Even if it's a lot less pay, I'd rather be there and say, okay, let's do something big, and be there for a good 6 months, or be there for a good year, or whatever else it is, rather than debut, then get forgotten about and disappear into the ether and go back to eating nice catering. That'd be what I would be like trying to avoid, because you've already done that for so long, and maybe again you've got some people there that you could fight, like the Hurt Syndicate or whatever else it is. But again, you can't fight them if you're being forgotten about and sitting in catering, can you? You know. So yeah, that would be where I would be at. And I was saying the same sort of thing with, like, a lot of the other talents. Like, dude, why would not that TNA can pick up everyone? They can't. But again, if they pick a handful of talent up, it's like, yeah, that's a great get, in my opinion. Especially if you can rehabilitate some of them or whatever, or they're a big enough name or whatever else it is to be like, or they have that attitude shift of, no, now I'm pissed, and now this is where I'm at, and now here we go. I'm gonna, showcase what I can really do. So hopefully we get to see more of that from these guys. And I even said that someone retweeted this about Jordynne Grace in WWE, and her and, was it, what's the name? Julia, getting in trouble for how good their match was, or how physical their match was, or whatever else it was. Get fucked. That's the kind of thing that if that happened to me and somebody said you guys went too hard or whatever else it was, or you had too good of a match out there, then I'd say, bitch, that's your problem, like, or whatever. And it'd always be the producers. It probably wouldn't be the wrestlers or whatever. The wrestlers would probably be more joking and be like, damn, we got to follow that now? Like, yeah, bitches, just try to follow that. Like, that's what it used to be back in the day or whatever. People used to do that a lot more, where it was like, yeah, but that was our match. That was what, and then sometimes it's not just about following that, maybe, like, or whatever. You've got to realize that sometimes it's about saying, okay, well, now how about a tone change, complete 180. Let's go from serious, like, strong style beat down match to the most comedy, silly match or something else. It's all about entertainment. It's not about saying they had a better match than anyone else could. It's about saying, well, shit, they had a really good match, so we need to cool the crowd down, or we need to have something else that we probably didn't plan, but we should have known that, because we're smart and we know wrestling and we know what these guys are, and we should know what these guys are doing, because again, WWE is very produced, and maybe they went quote unquote off script somewhat, or they hit each other harder than what was planned or whatever else. But again, like, it's too physical wrestling talent. What did you expect? You know what I mean? So if it was me again and the office told me you guys can't have that style of match again, I'd say, the fuck we can. And if they were saying, well, then we're just never going to book you guys together, and I'll say, well, cool, you're not going to book for money? Great, you're idiots. Well done on flushing money away. Things like that. I would stand my ground with things. I'd be like, dude, this is how we bring people into this. If you're not, wanting to bring more people into this and make people care about what we're doing here, and just you're going to plod along and keep going the same thing all the time, that's why people are tuning out. Not just because you're charging them 2 arms and a leg and a kidney and their firstborn child and whatever else it is to just see your show or whatever else it is, but you're saying, hey, we used to be the wrestling company, or whatever. We used to have partly great wrestling here, but now, nah, we want everything sanitized and the same, and plotting and boring and dull, and no one can go outside the box, and no one else can be creative, and no one can do anything that we disapprove of, and yada, 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 yada. And I don't know whether that is because of TKO or whatever else it is. I don't know. But again, like, that just feels really shit. And if I was there, I'd be saying, right, I want my release right now, because that's not what this business is about. I would rather be somewhere, even if I'm getting paid less and on a smaller stage, that I can be creatively free to do what I want to do. You know, that would be me. You know, I would be a handful to have to deal with sometimes, because I wouldn't put up with bullshit. Same with the Legends show or whatever it is that they had that, you know, was trying to like recruit these young kids and show them the ropes and whatever else it is. I remember one person there like clapping back against like the mentors and whatever else there and whatnot. And I'd be the same. I'd be like, you know, with all due respect, fuck you. You know, like, get fucked. Like, I remember like the Undertaker saying something to somebody about like their earring or something, some bullshit. And I was like, the fuck you do, bro? You know, the fuck you're going to pull my earring out. Jeff Hardy's worn earrings for like 30 odd years. You haven't pulled his ear fucking rings out. You know. And if you do, well, I'm going to kick you in the fucking nuts or something, you know. I'm going to start shooting on you then, you know. And I don't care if you start shooting on me too. I don't care if I even lose. But I'm going to show you that you can't fucking mess with me. You know, that would be how I would be. You know, even if I lose, even if I'm, you know, if you kick me out or whatever. I don't care. I showed you respect. I tried to respect you. Now you're disrespecting me, telling me you'd rip my fucking earrings out and all this other stuff or whatnot. The fuck you will. Bitch, please. You know, and things like that. You know. Back in my day, I don't care back in your day. You know. Same with like Booker T talking about one of these guys wearing gloves or whatever it was because he was like, oh, that's just copying me. I wore gloves like for a period of time. Dude, it's not about you. It's not about you. I'm not trying to copy you. I'm just wearing gloves because the ropes are slippery and stuff like that, and it gives me better grip and stuff like that. Do I need permission from you to be black too, since I'm black? You know, like, oh, I'm so trying to copy you just because I'm black as well. You know, things like that. I'd be like a fucking shit to have to deal with sometimes in some ways, but I'd be like, dude, no, come on. Don't tell me how I'm trying to copy you or whatever else it is. I'm just wearing some gloves because the ropes are slippery as shit. You know? And I'm just trying to get a good grip on the ropes and things like that. You know, don't try to tell me I'm copying you or whoever or whatever. I'm wearing these because I thought, oh, the ropes are slippery or whatever else it is to give me a better grip, whatever. Or maybe it's something that I thought, oh, maybe that'll be good for me. Like I can wear gloves and I can have my insignia on those. That's good for merch or whatever else it is as well. Hey. You know, you've got to wear things sometimes for merch. Well, what can I wear that's practical but also could be merch? Gloves. Hey, well, there we go. You know, things like that. You know, I'm not just going, oh, Booker T once wore gloves one point back in the history, so I'll copy that. I'll do that for you know, like, what? You think I care that you wore gloves, bro? I ain't got no care that you wore gloves. I shouldn't have to ask your permission to wear gloves, you know? And that's the thing, it's like so controlled. You can't do anything without them saying. You can't cut your hair without them saying so. You can't, you know, do anything. You can't sneeze. You can't breathe. And the same thing with Bully Ray there, who was saying, oh, about these people who got released and stuff like that. It was like, oh, they didn't shake enough hands and they didn't have any respect. And what? What are you talking about, bro? You know, like, from what I saw, and I didn't see very much, honestly, but from what I saw, all those kids did was try to be respectful as shit. If it was me, I'd be saying, fuck you, and leaving within the first couple of days. Because you guys were absolute assholes throughout the entire thing. You know, not just being like, hey, little bit of advice, or, you know, try this or try that. No, you were just saying, and maybe that's the way it was edited or whatever, I don't know. But again, you guys were just saying, "Oh, you guys are a bunch of shitheads," you know, and all this other crap, but then turning around saying, "You need to respect us." Bitch, please, I ain't respecting you for disrespecting me. You know, I ain't got no time for people who are disrespecting me. You know, so, but yeah, anyway. It feels very much like that, where it's like, we can get away with what we want and whatever, and you have to respect us. Bitch, please, I do. You know, ain't no way I'm going to respect you if you're disrespecting me. You know, I ain't going to tolerate that. I'm going to be gone. I don't care. You know, you think I'm being disrespectful. You're being disrespectful, bro. You know, no, I'm not putting up with your bullshit. I am my own man. I'm not funny going to just listen to you guys and things like that when you're just disrespecting me and whatever. But again, yeah, so I don't know about these releases, guys. Obviously, it's up to them. They could retire, like, especially like I suppose like the New Day could retire, or they could think about retiring, because they've made a lot of money in the business. And they've been out there for a long time, and they've taken a lot of bumps and bruises over the number of years. And, like, you know, what else do they have to prove in some ways? I don't know. They've done so much, and it's like, you know, they do deserve some respect, honestly. Maybe that's what they're hunting, one last, like, hoorah sort of thing. I don't know, but that is up to them. I don't know. But yeah, guys, those are my thoughts on these releases and some other stuff here, as I do tend to waffle on and whatnot in these videos. But you guys know that by now, at least I think. But anyway, guys, yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this one. Hope you all be good so that you can come back and join me again in another one.